Now, Sir Keir Starmer and Labour are struggling to shake the accusation the party's position on trans rights could put women and girls at risk. Listen to Jane from London taking Mr Starmer to task on single-sex spaces during a radio phone-in earlier today.
Can you say now that you will not allow men, biological men, under any guise to come into women's safe spaces?
We will, of course, protect...
Can you say that? You need to think about 51% of the population who are sick of the absolute twaddle that comes out of your mouth when we ask these questions.
Yeah, Jane, let me just... firstly, we will protect women's spaces. That is my commitment. But just hear me out. There are some people who do not identify with the gender that they are born into. They're often traumatised by that. There has been a process in place.
Hang on.
And the Shadow Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, didn't fare much better with a similar question.
Trans woman with a penis would use which lavatory?
Well, look, I think it's important that all people feel safe and have dignity and
but she needs to go to the lavatory. Which one does she use?
But I think there are a range of options that would...
Well, she hasn't got a range of options, respectfully. She's got a door with a woman on it. She's got a door with a bloke on it. Which one does she go in, Bridget Phillipson?
I would want people to treat one another with respect.
She needs to use the lavatory, Shadow Secretary of State. Which one is she to use?
I mean, seriously, those performances aren't likely to fill 51% of the electorate with much confidence. And Shadow Health Secretary Wes Streeting has admitted the party has a lot of work to gain back women's trust. But outspoken backbencher Dawn Butler immediately undermined Mr Streeting's conciliatory tone by siding with actor David Tennant when he told Kebby Badenoch to shut up over her views on trans rights. So with Sir Keir Starmer and Phillipson unable to give us a straight answer and the party clearly divided on trans issues, can Labour be trusted to protect women and girls? Right, before I go to my panel, let me bring in former Labour Minister Ivor Kaplan. Ivor, seriously, it's a very simple question. Why are these people struggling with very, very simple questions? It's binary, male, female. It's not that difficult. Does Labour have a woman problem?
In my view, Nana, no, it doesn't have a women problem. We have some of the best women in the shadow cabinet right now, and I hope that in 10 days' time that they will be in the cabinet. So that's the first thing to say. The second thing is this has always been a difficult issue for political parties. We've seen what the Tories have done over the last 2 years, where they've just been very happy to effectively, bring about a sort of toxic area around those who are trans and who want to do something.
But Ivor, why is it...
At the same time... Sorry, Nana, go on.
But I don't understand. It's not really toxic asking simple questions about the fact that Labour would like to make it easier for people to transition, which could put women and girls at risk. We saw what happened with Nicola Sturgeon. Isla Bryson was the exact example of why this could be difficult and dangerous for women. Not all trans people are like that. We've known this for years. In fact, most trans people will say that there hasn't really been an issue until the last few years, where it's become a question. Why is it so difficult for these people to answer simple questions?
No, I think you're absolutely right about that. I can't answer all of what you're saying there, but what I do know is that in the number of trans people, all they want to be able to do is to be part of both their time in whatever they are doing, and also in the more general thing around trans issues. In Brighton, we have a trans pride coming up in 3 weeks' time, which is likely to be the biggest that's ever been held in the UK for trans people. These are important things, and it doesn't need to be where people actually take action against people, and that's one of the issues. And I think that when and if Labour get into power next week, then I think we will be able to deal with this in a right and proper way, in exactly the same way that we had to do this in 1997 in relation to gay men and lesbians. So this is not unusual for us to be in this position. It's just about what can we do to make sure we get this right. and that we support trans people across the United Kingdom.
Well, listen, everybody, I should imagine, that the majority of people want support for trans people, but it cannot be at the expense of women, and I think that is the problem we're having here, and we are 51% of the electorate. So listening to Labour shadow ministers unable to answer very simple questions, and to Keir Starmer getting confused as to how many women have a penis, I think that is an issue. I mean, he's now agreed with Tony Blair that a man has a penis and a woman has a vagina, but it took him a long time to come to terms with that, and I think a lot of people are questioning why it's taken these people so long. Look, how will the Labour Party, in terms of that, then you said, how will they reassure women that they have their best interests at heart?
There's two areas. Obviously, there's the professional sport issue, which is a separate one, and then you've got the issues that we're dealing with right now about what happens on a daily basis in terms of trans people. I am absolutely confident, Nana, that if we are in government come Friday, then we will do our best to make sure that we can get this right for the longer term. There's been no attempt by the Conservative Party to try and get it right at any stage in the last few years, and it's going to fall to the Labour Party to try and get this right and to make sure that trans people have all the rights that they want to have in various communities around the United Kingdom. So we need to get this right, and we need to do it as quickly as possible. And I am confident that if we are in government come Friday, then that will be one of the things that will be on the list to be done.
All right, Ivor, thank you very much. I don't know why people are so confused with it. It's quite simple. A man is a man, a woman is a woman. You cannot change sex. That's what I think. Most people think the same thing. Ivor Caplins, thank you very much. Right, let's get the thoughts of my panel. Former BBC chief political correspondent John Sargent, former apprentice star Joanna Jarju, and political commentator Alex Armstrong. Let's see what they have to think about this. You know, it seems pretty binary, it seems pretty straightforward to me. Slightly got the walk wrong. It wasn't my fault, was it? That wasn't my fault. But it does seem a bit odd that these people are struggling with something so simple as to male and female anatomy and who has what. John Sargent, what do you make of this becoming such a big political hot potato?
No, I think it's reducing as a hot potato. People are gradually coming around to where they were a few years ago, which is that men are men, women are women, and some people, sad people often, are worried about their gender, you know. But there are all sorts of things you can't change very much. And when it comes back to the arguments about sport or about private places or going to the loo and all the rest of it, there's not a great deal you can do. And comparisons with the gay campaign, which was highly successful and worked very well, has not helped the people in these areas because they keep constantly thinking it's an analogous. It's not at all. There are vast numbers of people are gay. Vast numbers of people who are gay have worked out how they want to live and whether that's possible within the rest of the society. And the answer is it can be, and they have done. It's not so easy with a very small number of people who genuinely are transgender. Now, obviously, we've all got sympathy for them. It's very difficult for many of them. But the idea that they can simply barge into women's toilets and it's all going to be all right. No, it'd be all right for them, but not for the women involved, not for many of the women involved. And you can't really get round that. There is, as Nick Ferrari was saying, you can't get round the fact male, female toilets, that's it.
Well, that should be it. You'd think it would be, but they're having such trouble with it. Joanna Jarju, what do you make of this? Because it just seems so absurd that we are where we are.
Not really. I think it's a transition. You know, it's something that's new, and I think for any kind of movement in society, it takes years and years and years. And I actually think that I quite respect the Labour Party for pacing themselves when it comes to this, rather than just picking a camp when it comes to something that's to do with ideology and saying this is this and that's that. When we know that there's certain things that have progressed, even after the Cass report, for example, they'd said certain things and basically jumped the gun and then had to retract after the Cass report. So what they need to do is get into a position where they're in power, do more reports, really do the research, and then be able to make a
do the research on what, though? A woman has a vagina, a man has a penis. Why? Look, OK, so I hear you. It took them time. It took Keir Starmer almost 2 years to acknowledge that women do not have penises. And in fact, he came out with 99.9% of women don't have penises, which meant but 1 in 1,000 do. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
surely
this seems to be a problem across the whole Labour Party, though. I mean, we've got David Lammy coming out the other day saying he thinks that trans women can grow a cervix, so to speak, that they can have procedures to insert a cervix into them. It's just not biological sense. What's happened to the Labour Party? I mean, the only time Keir changed his mind is when Tony Blair went on, I think it was LBC or something, and said, oh, no, it's pretty straightforward. I'm of the church that a man has a penis and a woman has a vagina. Then Keir Starmer goes, that's right, yes, I agree with that. That's my policy too. They don't know what they're talking about. This is utter nonsense. And the reality is, Nana, is that they either don't have a plan to address this, which is why they can't answer it, or they do have a plan and don't want the public to know what the plan is.
The difference is that they're here to govern everybody. And when it comes to trans hate crime, that's gone up 11% in the last year. So they have to acknowledge that. And the fact that Keir Starmer was somebody who sat with Brianna Jai's mum, did all of these consultations, how awful would it be for him to then come out and say something completely different or just have a blanket view? And when I talk about, the reports and research and things like that, is that whenever they do eventually make a really concrete decision that they legislate on, they have to be able to say, we have come to this really tough decision that trans women are banned from here because of this.
How is this tough in any way, shape or form? We know men are men and women are women. If you're trans, you're sure that 0.1% of people, maybe even less than that, why does the entire population of this country need to pander to a small group of people? Can't they find the solutions at the end of the day? Why is it down to government again to legislate?
I think also the other problem is you say that trans hate crimes have gone up. Yes, because people have been very annoyed by the way that the trans campaign and campaigners have overreached themselves. That's all. I mean, they've gone too far. They've laid down laws which, in fact, are really upsetting people. Most people just carry on, get on with their ordinary lives. They're genuinely not affected by this. Yep. But when they are, and if they're constantly reminded of it, don't be surprised if people get angry and react.
Well, it's not just that, though, let's be honest here. It's in sport, where women are being compromised because of this. And
no, they've settled it in sport.
Well, they have, but not... No,
most of the main sports, it has been settled.
Yeah, but not fully, and that's why it's so ridiculous. I mean, Joanna, surely you can't think that it's OK for men to go against women in sort of contact sports. I mean, that hasn't been totally settled. People are still acting as though that's perfectly OK. Women are going to get harmed.
I mean, this is the thing. I almost feel as if, and this is why so much research has to be done on if you transitioned, for example, how much, testosterone, for example, do you still have? Do you have a massive, and then you have people, for example, who are intersex. You've got that sprinter as well who maybe has more testosterone.
That is a medical condition. So intersex is a medical condition. Just because somebody is born intersex doesn't mean there's a new type of human. We know what it means is that it's something that's gone wrong. Like if you had somebody who's born with one leg, it doesn't mean that there's a new kind of human, there's a one-legged human. Okay. It means that there's something's gone wrong. So why are we almost pandering to this as though there's some sort of new thing that's out there? Trans has existed since the beginning. We know that.